Chicago's College Connection is Radio DePaul.
Hey, Radio DePaul. This is Roxy with the Soundtrack Revisited for our 9th episode. Today we're going to be talking about a very, very recent movie that just came out, I believe, 2 weeks ago? The movie we're talking about today is One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson, or PTA as he is often abbreviated to. One Battle After Another is a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm sorry, Leo. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Chase Infinity, Regina Hall, Tiana Johnson. Great cast, great movie. I saw it last week at, actually on Sunday, like 3 days ago, at the Music Box in 70 millimeter. Beautiful, gorgeous. I was in the second row. I absolutely loved it. It was a great time, very entertaining, very kind of lived up to the hype. There's a lot of hype surrounding this movie. I believe that it is warranted. This is a great film. Go see it if you so please. I do recommend it. And today we're going to be talking about the music in this movie, namely the original score by artist, musician, composer Jonny Greenwood. Jonny Greenwood has worked with Paul Thomas Anderson in the past. This is their 6th collaboration together. The last one they did was Licorice Pizza. They started working together on There Will Be Blood in 2007. So they've done There Will Be Blood, Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread, The Master, Licorice Pizza, and now One Battle After Another. So a lot of PTA movies of the past couple decades are scored by this Jonny Greenwood guy, whose name might be familiar to you if you are a fan of a little underground band called Radiohead. Jonny Greenwood is the lead guitarist, keyboardist, arranger, co-founder of Radiohead. So he's British, naturally, from Oxford. He's done a few scores, as I listed beforehand. He's done mostly scores for PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson. But he also scored, more recently, The Power of the Dog in 2021. And he scored another movie by Lynn Ramsey, a movie that she did a couple years ago with Joaquin Phoenix. I forget the name of it. You Were Never Really Here, maybe? Yeah. So Jonny Greenwood is a musician and a film composer, and he made the music for the movie we're talking about today, which is One Battle After Another. I'll talk a bit more about him and his process and his career very briefly, but we'll talk about it a little bit. But yeah, One Battle After Another premiered on September 8th at the Chinese Theater in Los Angeles, and it is about, God, I don't even know where to start. I think we can start with the very beginning of the movie, which situates us in a revolutionary group called the French 75, and Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the members of this revolutionary group called the French 75, and he meets Tiana Johnson's character called Perfidia Beverly Hills, an insane name. They meet while doing an action at a detainment center at the border between the United States and Mexico, and they are immediately attracted to each other, and they, get together, and by the force of events, they have a child together. And most of the movie is centered around Leonardo DiCaprio's character looking for his daughter. That's all I'll say, because I don't want to spoil this movie too much, because it's been out for such a short amount of time that I don't want to give away too much. I'll just say that, yeah, DiCaprio's character, who has 2 names, because he has his name that he has when he's in the revolutionary group, and then 20 years later he has a different name because he's part of the witness protection program or something similar to it, and so his name is Bob 20 years later. So for most of the movie he goes by Bob. I believe his actual name is Pat. That's the name he has at the very beginning of the film. And Pat is, and for most of the movie, chasing after his daughter, who has gone missing. Well, no, she hasn't gone missing, but who isn't with him right now, and he needs to find her again. I'm going to be tiptoeing around the plot of this movie because I really don't want to spoil it. I think, although this movie doesn't depend solely on like, oh my God, crazy plot twist, I think it's more fun to experience it just like without knowing too much about it. But although I will be talking a little bit about like some of the plot points I was going to say podcast. This is not a podcast. This is a radio show. We're real people here. I will be talking a bit about the plot points of the movie in this radio show. So if you really, really, really don't want it to be spoiled, maybe skip this one and listen to the radio show later, because this is a great time to plug my replay of this show. I record this show and put it all together, and I put it on my YouTube channel. So if you are listening today and you've missed a few episodes, or this is the first time you're listening to the Soundtrack Revisited, you can check out the replay of this radio show. If you look up the Soundtrack Revisited on YouTube, you will find all 8 previous episodes of this show. Listen away. There's some pretty cool songs all in there, and nice commentary from yours truly. But anyways, today, one battle after another. Paul Thomas Anderson, scored by Johnny Greenwood. First song I'm going to play for you is not by Johnny Greenwood and is not part of the original score. It is simply a borrowed song that plays in the movie at the very, like, not at the very beginning, but like early on in the movie. And it's a great song. We all love it. It is a song called Dirty Work by Steely Dan. And it's just great fun. So I'm going to play that for us, and then we'll get into the original score by Johnny Greenwood.
Times are hard, you're afraid to pay the fee, so you find yourself somebody who can do the job for free. When you need a bit of loving, 'cause your man is out of town, that's the time you get me running, and you know I'll be around. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. Light the candle, put the lock upon the door. You have sent the maid home early like 1,000 times before. Like the castle in his corner in a medieval game, I foresee terrible trouble, and I stay here just the same. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more.
That was Dirty Work by Steely Dan. 1972, I believe. Let me fact check myself here. Yes, 1972. Steely Dan, Dirty Work. This plays, early on in the movie. I can't honestly remember this specific scene it plays in because I wasn't able to rewatch this for the show today because I just saw it on Sunday and it was just released, so it's not available anywhere other than in theaters. But I feel like this is a great time to talk a little bit more about DiCaprio's character in this movie because I think, this song and the lyrics of it kind of speak to his character. He's a little bit of like he starts out as this like guy who's part of a revolutionary group who's there to defend people's rights and people's, right to live and be protected and not be violated and imprisoned right at the beginning. You're like, oh my God, such a cool guy. And then 20 years later, he's this like stoner dad who stays at home on the couch in his robe watching old like revolutionary movies, but he's not really doing anything anymore with his life. And he has a daughter, but he's a little like, he's kind of a loser. He becomes kind of a loser 20 years after being kind of a cool guy, part of this like really important cause and essentially being a revolutionary. But yeah, he turns into this kind of loser guy, and the movie is sort of about him reclaiming that part of him that, has this fire inside of him that led him to do some pretty baller stuff when he was younger. And isn't that fun to see people kind of reclaim their strengths and their inner fires? It's always a satisfying thing to watch. Well, that's kind of what One Battle After Another is about when it comes to DiCaprio's character. His name is Bob Ferguson. As I said, that's kind of his witness protection name, which I think it works. Bob Ferguson is a very cliche American name. I wouldn't suspect anything coming from a Bob Ferguson. Oh, and oh my gosh, I forgot to mention, one of the other main characters in this movie is played by Benicio del Toro, which, I want to say Benicio, it's Benicio. Benicio del Toro, Spanish actor. Sorry, he's not Spanish. Oh my God. He's Puerto Rican. I'm sorry, he's Puerto Rican. Puerto Rican actor, fantastic in this film. He's so funny, and he's a great scene partner with DiCaprio. He really adds a lot to the movie and to the funniness of it, just because he's awesome. And he plays this guy who's a karate instructor. He's a sensei, and for DiCaprio's daughter who does karate. And when things go to shit, DiCaprio can really count on Benicio del Toro's character, whose name, I'm totally blanking on his name because DiCaprio calls him Sensei for the whole movie. So I don't remember what his actual name is, but their scenes together are fairly funny. There's this hilarious scene where they're in the car together and they're in like a car chase essentially, and he stops and is like, let's take a selfie. Like, they're in the car and they take a selfie. And it's so funny. It's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's really funny. But yeah, great duo, the two of them, DiCaprio, Del Toro. Very funny. Yeah, love it. So let's get into the original score for this. It's composed by Johnny Greenwood, as I said at the beginning of the show. Johnny Greenwood, lead guitarist, keyboardist, arranger, co-founder of Radiohead. Radiohead, you guys probably know Radiohead. Come on now. I don't have to say anything about Radiohead. But he is also, in recent decades, a film composer. And to give us a first taste of his work on One Battle After Another, I want to play the title track, somewhat, of this soundtrack album, which is called One Battle After Another. And in playing this, I want to mention very quickly that this track is performed partially by Greenwood, but also by the London Contemporary Orchestra, because there are some strings and some orchestral stuff in there. So have a listen at the very gorgeous track that is One Battle After Another, and I'll talk more about it once we get back. All right. I apologize if it sounds cut off, but it is cut off because this is one of those soundtrack albums where the tracks kind of melt into one another. So it sounds cut off when the song ends, but I promise you I played it till the end. What a beautiful song. What a great kind of theme for this film, because it is kind of the theme of the film. I believe, if my memory serves me right, that it plays a few times in the film, this track. And so yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this is One Battle After Another, the title track of the soundtrack of the movie of the same name, composed by Johnny Greenwood and played by the London Contemporary Orchestra, conducted by Hugh Brunt. And this is a great time to talk about kind of Johnny Greenwood's process, because as you might have heard in this one I guess is mostly real instruments like piano, strings, percussion, etc. But Johnny Greenwood very much works with a lot of electronic techniques as well, like programming, sampling, and looping, and he writes music software, so he knows kind of music production on a very technical level, as well as being classically trained. He's the only member of Radiohead that is classically trained. And so he was kind of, in Radiohead, he was the guy that like arranged a lot of Thom Yorke's demos and made them into like proper full tracks. And so yeah, he's got this great, kind of these two sides of like being classically trained, very talented in using acoustic instruments like piano and strings and percussion and a symphonic orchestra, but also mastering the more modern elements that are, electronic production and softwares and all that stuff. So that's makes you golden when, you want to make music, especially soundtracks. If you can master both and try to use both of them together, that always works super well, because I think it creates a contrast that is very cinematic. In this one, as I said, I'm pretty sure it's mostly acoustic, orchestra and piano, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure, I wasn't able to track down who is playing the piano in this one, but piano is great. It's so simple, the melody, like the piano line sounds so simple. It's like a lot of that same note repeating, but the rhythm of it and the chords that come beneath that melody line of that one note being repeated create such like a gravity to it. And then when the strings come in and the drums, it's very cinematic, but it's also just a very well composed piece in and of itself, outside of the fact that it's made for this film, which I think is always a great mark of a great soundtrack and a great soundtrack piece. And it's interesting, I've been seeing online all these people posting like reels and stuff with like, oh my god, like when I listen to this song I feel transported back to the movie, and I'm like, oh, it makes me feel some type of way. And that happens every once in a while with a movie that has kind of like a very strong theme, like a strong musical theme like this one. You get like this phenomenon of like, oh my god, this song kind of gives me the chills, or like makes me like go back into the movie. And that's like the mark of a really good soundtrack. If it's able to make people feel a certain way and make people feel like they're in the movie when they listen to it outside of its context, like just as a song on Spotify or wherever they stream, that's like amazing, because it means that Greenwood was able to capture something in a song that is reminiscent of the whole movie and of the sentiment of the movie, as well as composing a beautiful track. So that's pretty impressive if you ask me, and I really enjoy it, and I think it's a great way to kind of ease into the soundtrack, which, as I said, does get a little more electronic in moments, but also stays very acoustic and string focused, like string instrument focused for a lot of them. Speaking of string focused songs, the next song I want to play for you is called Guitar for Willa, because Willa is the name of the daughter character in this movie. The character who is Leonardo DiCaprio's fictional daughter, her name is Willa. And again, she has two names, because Willa is her name as part of this witness protection program-esque life. Her original name is Charlene. Her mother names her Charlene. But when they have to flee because they're wanted by the government for being revolutionaries, her name changes and she becomes Willa. So she's one of the main characters in this movie, played by wonderful actress Chase Infinity. And yeah, this song is called Guitar for Willa. And it reminds me, for fans of the show who might have listened to my other soundtrack analyses, this reminds me a lot of the Bones and All soundtrack because it is fully an acoustic guitar. So, acoustic classical guitar, I believe. And this is composed and performed by Johnny Greenwood, amazing guitarist. And this only showcases that this piece only continues to showcase that not only is he a great, like, kind of rock alternative guitar player, he's an amazing classical guitar player. And I'll tell you this, classical guitar is not easy. So here is Guitar for Willa. Enjoy. And we will be back soon for more analyses about the One Battle After Another soundtrack.
What's up, y'all? This is Jeremiah.
What's up? This is Steve-O from Jackass. You're listening to Radio DePaul.
Radio DePaul.
Radio DePaul is Chicago's college connection.
Snow is getting everywhere. But it is Christmas.
This is Radio DePaul.
Christmas music. Let's go. Come on. Thank you. Oh, not a deer. No.
This winter, make sure to follow some basic safety tips when driving to prevent mishaps. For starters, slow down and increase your following distance behind cars to ensure you have enough space to brake in slick conditions. Next, check the recommended tire pressure from your car's manufacturer and adjust your tires as needed. Consider a new set of tires if your current ones are older than 6 years. Also, give your car ample time to warm up before you start to drive. If your car is sliding and does not have anti-lock braking, make sure to pump your brakes instead of slamming on them. And finally, consider changing your wiper fluid to de-icer. DePaul would love to see you back on campus after the holidays, so please drive safe and take care during this holiday season. This message is brought to you by Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection.
Welcome to the Radio DePaul podcast. I'm Derek Peters.
We're bringing back an episode from our archives. Here's what they had to say.
The first marchers began arriving near the Capitol building before dawn.
I want to get health insurance when I'm older.
Students find comfort in talking to Asha about school, personal life, or really
Max
anything.
is a fictitious artificial intelligence robot who had his own television program in the 80s.
Drove alongside him at one
We believe in the power of the ordinary citizen.
Last time the United States was this polarized, and we were in the middle of a civil war.
In 3.5 minutes, we had maybe potentially changed the way a human being will view somebody.
But we're back.
Find these exceptional stories and more with the Radio DePaul podcast. New episode available for download every other Monday on SoundCloud, iTunes, and the free Radio DePaul app. The Radio DePaul podcast, always free, typically amazing. This message brought to you by Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection.
Please make a connection.
This is Bulletin.
The stop for Radio DePaul, your Chicago College Connection.
You are listening to Radio DePaul, indeed. And specifically, you're listening to the soundtrack Revisited, hosted by yours truly, Roxy. This is our 9th episode, our 2nd episode back. And we are talking about One Battle After Another, specifically its soundtrack. One Battle After Another, movie directed by Paul Thomas Anderson and scored by Johnny Greenwood. Right before the ad break, we played the track, the original score track, Guitar for Willa, which is a gorgeous classical guitar piece performed and composed by Johnny Greenwood himself. Man, I love these kinds of pieces. They're very simple. One instrument, one performer, sounds like one single take, but it's straight to the point, you know, and it gives you, personally, it gives me the chills. I know I have a specific relationship to the classical guitar. I played the classical guitar for 4 to 5 years. I wasn't very good, but I played it. And I stopped, you know, when I started college, and I have it pulls on my heartstrings, because without getting too much into it, you know, when you play an instrument for a while, you kind of develop a strange kinship to it. I used to play the cello when I was younger, and I get the same feelings when I hear a beautiful piece of cello. It's just, you know, it's like hearing an old friend, or hearing a meeting back with a family member that you used to be very close to and who you haven't seen in a long time. You know, it's special. So I love this track that we played right before the break, Guitar for Willa by Johnny Greenwood. And, you know, right before I played it, I briefly mentioned who Willa is. Willa is the character played by Chase Infinity in One Battle After Another, and she is the character of the daughter, who is the one who's being kind of chased by multiple people at the same time. And this actress, Chase Infinity, I believe this is one of her first roles. She's amazing in this movie. She just does an amazing job at portraying a range of emotions that her character has to go through. And I don't know how old she is, but she's fairly young. I think she might be in her very early 20s. And she's fantastic. And the next song I want to play for you guys is, again, with a lot of these tracks, I can't remember exactly when they play in the movie, just because when I saw it on Sunday, I was so engrossed in the film that I wasn't taking notes. I'm not the kind of person who takes notes during a movie, but I'd have, in going through the score again from top to bottom to prepare for this show, I remembered these songs specifically because I think they're in fairly important moments in the film, or at least moments that I remember fairly well and that, had an effect on me. And the next song, which is called Battle After Battle, is another fairly, not acoustic, but like not too electronic, but it's very dramatic and cinematic, and I really like it as well. It's a lot of, I believe, violins. And it just works very well. It builds up a lot of tension, which this movie is full of very tense moments that are, complemented by a lot of things, but namely the music. Johnny Greenwood's score really adds to the tension in this film filled with battle after battle, which I am playing for you right now. That was Battle After Battle. It's composed by Johnny Greenwood on Spotify. That he's the artist who's credited because, he composed the score for most of this film. But it is played by this classically trained and very talented violinist called Anne-Marie Calhoun. Yeah, so this is very much her track, in my opinion. I'm sure that Johnny Greenwood probably maybe composed it. I don't know. It sounds so much like I don't know. She's living it and she's written it, but maybe not. Anyways, credits to her as well, Anne-Marie Calhoun. Fantastic violinist. And you know what I mean? Like when I was talking about how this track and all of the tracks really participate in building like the tension and the kind of fast pace battle after battle, like running after each other, chasing people for the whole movie. I feel like this track exemplifies that feeling pretty well because it's, you know, it's violin and it's like going faster and faster and repeating and then like going higher. And I don't know, I think the violin is an interesting instrument because it can be very soft and very like romantic, but it can also be very like literally high strung and stressful and like, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but I think this song that we just played, Battle After Battle, is what I mean. Violins can be stressful. They really can be. And in a not so well planned segue, I think the tension of this film is also really well expressed through the visuals of this film. The visuals of this film are gorgeous, but also very, you know, very not stylized, but the color grading and the composing of the frames and all the camera movements and everything. Obviously, there was a lot of camera movement going on and a lot of interesting lenses being used to do like a lot of like telescopic kind of, it looks like there's the lens is spying on people. You don't know if it's point of view shots or not. Regardless, it's really impressive. The cinematographer on this is, excuse me, I'm looking at my notes because I'm blanking on his name, Michael Bauman, who has worked with Paul Thomas Anderson in the past. He is the cinematographer for The Master, for Licorice Pizza. As some of you might know, Paul Thomas Anderson is sometimes his own director of photography, but that's not the case for this one. Michael Bauman is the director of photography for One Battle After Another, which was shot on 35mm VistaVision, so on film. What VistaVision is that instead of making the film go through the film camera vertically, it goes through the film camera horizontally, and so it makes for a larger film strip. Like the size that is of this film that is being exposed is larger because it, instead of being vertical, it's horizontal. That makes for, you know, more like a even higher quality visuals because you have more space to expose your film on. And yeah, the visuals for this film are gorgeous. I was lucky enough to see it in 70mm on a 70mm print at the Music Box Theater in Chicago, and that was awesome. But I am so jealous of the people who have been able to see it in 70mm IMAX, which is crazy. 70mm IMAX is like these huge screens that are like larger than life itself and that can play these movies. You know, another recent movie that was played in 70mm IMAX was Sinners recently. But yeah, One Battle After Another is being played in IMAX 70mm, and I'm jealous. But it was also really good to see it in regular 70mm at the Music Box. I can't complain. It's always awesome to see movies projected on film. It's a very different experience. You know, it definitely takes some getting used to, and I would say it's a little more engaging because the image isn't so smooth and perfect, and so it gives kind of a little bit more of an edge to your viewing experience. And I like that, especially for this kind of film that is a very gritty film as well, and very like you're on the edge of your seat for the whole film. But anyways, the visuals in this film are gorgeous, and I think that Paul Thomas Anderson, you know, is definitely to be trusted when it comes to having gorgeous visuals because, as I said, he's sometimes his own cinematographer. Next song I want to play for you does exhibit more of the kind of electronic abilities of Johnny Greenwood, who composed the score, that I kind of alluded to earlier in the show. He works super well with, you know, looping and programming and like writing his own software for electronic music production. And this next song, called Trust Device, is one of those songs that uses a lot of electronic music. But I want to give you a little bit of background on what this song means in the film. Trust Device is called Trust Device because it is the melody that plays out of these little devices that the father and the daughter each have. They each have one of them. And it's these devices that are built by one of the guys, one of the old members of the revolutionary group that they were part of, he makes these devices that basically are like, they're sensitive to each other, the devices, and when whoever has one and the other are within 100 feet of each other, they start playing like a melody. And the melody is this song. And so you hear this track a few times in the movie. Every time, you know, a character who has one of those trust devices is close to another character who has it. So I believe that that's just a fantastic use of music in a film when you're able to add it into the actual story of the film, not only because it's like playing on the radio or whatever, but because it's part of like this device that is essential to kind of solving this film, solving the main problem of this film, which was, well, the father and daughter are separated. So yeah, this one is called Trust Device. I really like it. I think it'll showcase to you the more electronic side of this soundtrack. And I'll let you enjoy Trust Device by Johnny Greenwood. That was Trust Device by Johnny Greenwood. I think this is honestly one of my favorite tracks in the soundtrack, one of my favorite cues, if we can call them that, because I think it exemplifies a lot of the things that we talked about today. There's the electronic element that I mentioned right before I played it, the looping, and the layering and everything. But there's the guitar, the acoustic guitar. There's the strings. There's some bass in there. There's some great percussion. It's just like, it showcases how well he's able to mix all of his, all of his talents, whether it be classically or electronically, more like modern music versus, symphonic, classical music. It's a great mix of it. And it's a great song. It's a great vibe, but it's also, it serves a purpose in the film. The very beginning is that part I was talking about before, where this is literally what plays out of these trust devices that are a way for characters to find each other from afar. So yeah, I really enjoy this track. I think it's a great movie track, and again, it's a great way to summarize what he's able to accomplish as a composer. I do want to talk briefly about, the reason that these trust devices exist is because these two characters, the father and daughter, that's their only way of kind of trying to track each other in a very broad sense, because the only thing the trust device does is tell you if the person is 100 feet or closer to you. And so it's, it's very broad, but it's just like, it's an object in the film that is kind of a representation of this idea that just knowing that somebody is near is so important, and can reassure you and make you feel like, okay, they're close. I don't know where, but they're close. And, 100 yards is not that far. I'm aware of that. But I think it's interesting that that device is, such an important part of the film, because it's, metaphorically speaking, it's also pretty interesting to think about. One last thing I want to mention before I cue us out with the last song. This movie was shot, for the most part, at least a lot of it, was shot in Northern California, in Humboldt County, specifically in the towns of Eureka and Arcata. So, to whoever is listening to this and knows what the hell I'm talking about, shout out to Eureka and Arcata and Humboldt County in Northern California. Pretty cool that they shot a lot of the film over there. I've got some family who lives over there. Some of them used to live there, some of them still live there, but I've been there a few times, and I love that place. It's very cool, a great place to be. And this film is partially shot there, so I thought I would shout that out. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope if you haven't seen One Battle After Another, it enticed you to go see it, because I do think it's worth it. I do think it's a lot of fun, and I think that most people would enjoy it, because it's very entertaining, and it's very it's a very quality film. To cue us out today, I want to play one of the last songs that plays in the movie itself. It's not for the credits, it's right before the credits, but it's the last scene, and it's a great conclusion to the film. The daughter is basically deciding, you know what, I want to pursue my parents' legacy and take action in the world, and help people out, and not just sit on my couch and smoke weed like my dad. So yeah, this song plays when she gets into the car and she's like, I'm going to get things done. And the dad seems pretty proud, although he's a little worried, but he's proud. This was a Soundtrack Revisited. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week with another soundtrack. This is American Girl by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Chicago's College Connection is Radio DePaul.